So Chris Claremont comics, a lot of words, very, very verbose.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like narration. If I was
So
to read,
much.
could you imagine? Like, look at panel 6. If you were an artist on a book and you were told, okay, in this panel, you're going to draw Captain Britain and Meghan up above a lighthouse, moving a giant sack of like boxes. Also, Rachel Summers will be visible, also moving a bunch of boxes, and we will see Shadowcat and Nightcrawler standing next to the base of the lighthouse, plus 4 different word balloons. You're like, how? How do you do that in one panel?
Hello, welcome to another episode of In This Issue. I'm your host, Zack Soto. I'm a cartoonist, editor, bin crawler, and I'm here with my old buddy, Mike Dawson, who is also a cartoonist and occasional podcaster. We used to have a podcast together called Process Party, so this is a bit of a reunion. I haven't seen Mike since he started growing this mustache.
Did you like it? Started. Yes. It's in. This is it.
Oh, sorry. I mean, since he has successfully grown this mustache. Yeah, no, it does look good. You're kind of achieving a final form here. I feel like this is like a long time in the offing because it definitely feels like you're of a lineage here with your icon.
Well, yeah. I haven't worked my mustache into my little cartoon avatar, but yeah, hey, it's good to be here. It's good to be talking to you, Zach, and it is like a Process Party reunion. This mustache, it really is like this is it.
Yeah.
This is like 3-4 months worth of work, and I have a friend who didn't see me in a while, and when he saw me, he's like, "Oh, what are you going for?" I'm not going for anything.
Yeah. Well, I guess I meant that it seems like, as most of us with the deep Mike lore know, you are a big Queen fan, so it's got a little Freddie Mercury thing going on. It's pretty cool.
Well, I'm very glad that, yes, the mustaches have just become like all right to have now, because maybe 10 years ago really wasn't like you couldn't have a mustache. It's sort of Burt Reynolds kind of thing. But now it's all right. And yeah, my wife is dealing with it.
But
we're not here to talk about my mustache.
No, we are actually. Your wife actually nudged me and said, "Can you please talk about the mustache?"
Like, I didn't read that.
Yeah, no, we're not technically here to talk about the mustache, although it is something we're gonna. I've got about like 15 minutes logged for it now.
Okay, really go deep with it.
No, it does. It looks good. And hey, audio listeners, check out the YouTube because you want to see this mustache.
I think
so. And of course, we are, brand new world here. When we were recording our podcast, it was audio only, and but now it's the whole new world of everybody's pivoting to video in the podcast world a little bit later than journalists did, but here we are. If you are on the audio only feed, do know that there is a video feed of this where we will be flipping through the comic that we talk about every issue, every episode. And this episode, we're here to talk about Excalibur #3 from 1988, which was, of course, chosen by our guest, Mike Dawson. But, we'll get into it a little bit. I'm pretty excited to talk about this comic, but first I do want to talk about your new book, Mike. You have a new book. We should flog that.
I do have a new book.
Dominion of Geordie James. Did I say it right? Okay.
Yes, The Hidden Dominion of Geordie James, which is a title I love because it kind of sounds alliterative, but it's not quite. I'll hold it up. Another reason to get on the video. There's the cover to it. I'm very happy with how the cover came out. And this is a book that's for middle grade readers. Middle grade generally tends there's an inclination in middle grade for cover design to do like sort of a solid color with a bold character on it. Something that's like gonna like pop out. When seen, small thumbnail like in a Scholastic catalog thing. But I had this like really long title, so it was like a good excuse to just sort of go the opposite direction in terms of cover because I got to get all those words onto it. So we're just gonna make it busy. So it's a very busy cover, which was like so much fun to work on. Like I sort of like did things I haven't really done artistically before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I, I, do you want me to sort of explain what the book is?
Yeah. Let's get into it just a little bit before we get into
Yeah,
the
just real quick.
well, I mean, not
It's a
I'm not. That wasn't like a just a little bit, but like let's talk about it. Yeah,
oh sure, no
I
problem.
haven't finished the whole thing, but I did read a good chunk of it this morning, and it's very fun. But go ahead and give the kind of elevator pitch or whatever.
So when I talk to kids, so one thing I do that I didn't used to do as much when we had our previous podcast is now I do a lot of like going to schools and libraries and talking to kids about like making comics, and also it's also a great reason to, a great excuse to tell them about my own comics. And when I talk to them about what this one's about, I like to say it's like Charlotte's Web meets the Minecraft movie. Now, that isn't what the story's about, but that's just a great way to get kids to be excited and interested in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because they definitely like the Minecraft movie, and I think kids really do like Charlotte's Web as well. But what I'm trying to do, it's a story about a sixth grader. His name is Geordie, and he's dealing with like a lot of anxiety. As a person who exists in this world, childhood anxiety is just something I spend a lot of time thinking about, experiencing. Wanted to like bring it into my writing. And this is a kid who's like really like struggling to sort of feel much control in his everyday world. And a place where he is able to feel more control, more in control, is in this video game called Dominion, which is very much like a Roblox type Minecraft game, the type of game where like lots and lots of kids are all online on tablets playing at the same time. And there's a lot of choices in what they can play. And my character Geordie spends a lot of time in the game by himself, creating, building, and sort of structuring the world like the way he wants it. Over the course of the plot, like it's about him having to like allow the world back in and sort of accept that you can't control the world around us to the degree we might hope we would. We wish we could. But the other thing I really wanted to do with this book, because it is for 8 to 12-year-olds, I wanted to take very seriously the fact that they really like these video games. They mean a lot to them. Even like I have my issues with like Roblox. It's like it's not good in terms of like the money. Like
Right.
it's training kids to ask
Microtransactions.
for transactions and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I don't love that, but this is a place where that's where they're spending a lot of time, and like it's meaningful to them. So it's not a book where it's like critical of that. Like it takes it seriously, and it's actually through this video game that he sort of comes to these eventual realizations that he's got to accept his the limitations of how much he can control the world around him. Um, so yeah, I'm real happy with it. It came out about a month or so ago, and just what I was talking about before in terms of the cover and just visually, I really wanted to sort of push myself to create worlds, visual worlds that actually feel like lived in and like at like real places. Like, because in my own cartooning, and we might come to this a little bit as we're talking about Excalibur. In my own cartooning, my general default is to be fairly minimal
Mm-hmm.
with like backgrounds and establishing where I always sort of feel like you just give the reader enough information to kind of know where something's happening, and you can like from there you don't have to you know overwhelm them with the environments in the background. But in this book particular, I really actually wanted to like really like lean into like creating a suburb where he lives, creating a school that feels like a real school, and then definitely like these woods and forests that he spends time in, like that they're like feel like you know like I made a lot of effort to draw a lot of trees and
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's sort of a nexus point in the woods that's at least initially is just sort of visible as like a giant pile of old trees and stuff.
yeah.
And it's I was going like, okay, Mike really drew the heck out of this, and like the house that's like falling apart, and
Yeah.
all that, or this being built, I guess I should say, and all these kind of real detailed environments, and you have kids going over to other kids' houses and things like that, and you really spend a lot of time sort of being like, well, this is what this person's house looks like, this is what this person, kind
Yeah.
of really giving different environments for the different kids, which is cool.
Yeah, so I'm it's getting it got some very good reviews, like better than I've ever had before. Like the trade magazines like Book List and Kirkus and School Library Journal, they all gave it a star, which
Delightful.
is delightful.
Well, I mean, it's like you're like, oh, cool, they gave me a star, but that actually is a big deal, because the
No, I was really
librarians
excited
and
about
such
it.
do pay attention to that.
And the last thing I'll say about it is the other thing I was, because we're talking like processy stuff. As a writer, I also just like I never know like how many more stories I may have to tell. You never know like how many times you're gonna get a book published and so on. And with this one, I feel like I'm trying to tackle some issues that are important to me, and I think that are important to kids, like anxiety, as I mentioned before, the environment, like animal welfare, things that like that's why I was very pleased to get the good response, the critical response, because I just wasn't sure if it was going to be received well or not. That I'm trying to like, especially like when it comes to like animal welfare, and also like later on you probably didn't get to it yet, but like the COVID pandemic is addressed, in the story and
Oh,
stuff
okay,
like that.
yeah. I
Kind of,
haven't gotten to that part yet.
but I feel like these are things that like probably, I mean, not so much COVID for kids today, but like just the world feeling like scary and chaotic. I think is something that a lot of kids are dealing with, and I kind of wanted to like go all in on like writing about this stuff. Like I think they actually do care about.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's funny too, because we used to talk every week, and just seeing some of the like threads from back in the day when you were talking about like, oh, my kid, I guess I give him the I let him play with a Switch, and and he plays Roblox, or whatever, maybe it wasn't the Switch, but he was playing Roblox, back in the day, and then like now, like, I don't know, 10 years later, you've got like a whole kind of Roblox inspired
yeah,
video game milieu in this graphic novel, which is pretty funny to see. It also, it I've become addicted to another similarly addictive video game that it also deals in microtransactions. Because I play Fortnite pretty much every day, but that is, it's funny to sort of see it through that lens, because I've never even looked at Roblox. I do know that people are kind of concerned about Roblox because people get scammed out of money and
oh
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of predators. My daughter had that happen to her. Some of her very rare collectible creatures or whatever were stolen through like a scam.
Right.
Fortnite, I do play Fortnite. That was actually visually what I tried to go for with my depiction of the video game, because there was something I sort of was thinking about a lot when I was writing this story, or not thinking about, but just encountering, is my own limitations as an artist. I do feel like I managed to successfully push myself in some things that I'm comfortable drawing, but like drawing a video game style is not like, it's not something that's like easy for me. And I was trying to kind of get that, the way video games actually feel with like words flying all around and like the blockiness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my early attempts were kind of like that, but just looked so sort of ugly and like not like it didn't pull together at all. I just sort of decided to go with a sort of a Fortnite thing and drop all the stuff with the text and just sort of make it feel like in the world of this book, this is like just this is the video game.
The game is called Dominion in your book, and it's a sort of a combination of Fortnite and Roblox. Yeah, and I like the kind of style that you settled on, because it kind of feels like it's almost sort of like a Mayan Jack Kirby kind of thing. Like it's kind of blocky, but it has like those
Okay.
little like swirly bits and things like that going on in it. I've thought about trying to do something with my obsession with Fortnite, trying to
Yeah.
work that into like a story, and there's something about like whenever I first started playing, I was playing so much, and I was retreating. I was sort of disassociating so much because I was sort of like burnt out on. I just finished my second power button, and
Oh.
and I was like burnt out creatively and physically and stuff. And I was just playing this game, and I would find that like I was driving in the real world, and I would kind of be like, oh, I'm like, I could just drive off of this road and like,
Hit that turbo and
yeah, I would just hit the turbo boost and go, because I mean it was during the wrecked season, the Car Wars season or whatever too. So I was kind of like spending a lot of time just being like wow, wow, wow. And really enjoying that. And then there's a quality to like playing these games where you kind of like one of the main reasons why I play Fortnite is just because I enjoy the quote unquote feeling of being in the game, moving through the world, it's a very,
and it's so like, it's very like, I really like the way that aesthetically that Fortnite looks.
Yeah.
I do like, I also, I play it pretty daily, but the way I play might be different than you, because what I like about this game is that you can play a game and it takes about 12 to 15 minutes and then you're done.
Right.
So for me, it's kind of like a mental headspace kind of clear out kind of thing.
Mm-hmm,
like I'll be doing whatever I'm doing and I could just take a break, get a quick game in, and then just be done. Whereas like when I play other types of games where you spend a lot of time there, that like to keep you there, it's kind of, you can't just like hop on like Zelda Breath of the Wild for 10 minutes.
No, not at all.
Like, so that's what I like about it. But I definitely agree with you. Like what do you call it? The haptic, the tactile feeling of that game. Like my favorite part of the game is always just the first like couple minutes, like landing, getting some stuff. And I actually generally get a bit bored actually if I'm like top 10, like right. I'm still alive. I'm like, oh.
You're like, okay, this is I gotta wait in this bush for a little while, and then I'm gotta move over here. Yeah.
For some 10-year-old to kill me. This is way off topic. You don't have to keep it, but did I ever tell you about the time I played Fortnite with a couple of my other friends?
Oh, no.
Like in the beginning.
Do you usually play solo, basically?
I always play solo.
Oh, okay.
But right in the beginning, first time I tried it, and we should definitely play a game together at some point.
Right on.
But in the beginning, when I was relatively new to it, I got a couple of my friends from like high school and college. It was during COVID, so the three of us got on together, and I didn't know you could do groups of 3, so we signed up as 4, like right. 4 of us.
Oh, randoms are the worst.
So we got like a little, like, sounded like an 8-year-old in our squad.
Yeah.
And, well, this is the thing, is that me and my friends were talking to each other on a phone, because none of us could figure out how to do voice over the game. And then this little kid was in the game talking. It's like, hey guys, let's, blah, blah, blah over here. And like, we can't talk to him. We can't talk back to him. We're just sort of following him around. And he's like, come on, everybody. And then he got killed. And he was like, help me. Help me. And we're all like, we don't know how. I don't know how to help you. I don't understand this game. And help. Help me.
Oh.
But he couldn't even hear us. Anyway. I love Fortnite.
I was gonna say randoms are the worst, but you guys were actually the problem in that case.
We were the problem. Getting saddled with us 3 old men who don't know how the game works. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
But again, I guess just to wrap up on the Dominion thing, it's like, it's something that I like, and it's something that clearly my own children have experience with. So again, I just wanted to sort of take it seriously and like not. I could have very easily written a book for kids where it's like, you shouldn't spend so much time playing games.
Right.
That's the moral.
Well, I mean, in the book, like the dad is like, that does it. You're done playing this, and, yes. And I was actually like pissed for him, So
for the kid?
For the kid, yeah. I was like, no, this is his only outlet. Come on,
He's happy.
Yeah, whereas I actually need to play less Fortnite. It's taken over. I don't play any other video games. I pay for the PlayStation thing where you can play whatever they have, for free. Okay. And then I just don't play anything but Fortnite because it's the only thing I really enjoy, doing because of anhedonia or depression or whatever,
Well, it's good that we have it then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's for me. It's also become this very social thing because I play with a friend of mine
Okay.
who from like college. I've met all these people from like a Discord that's for this other video game podcast, that I have regular hangout sessions with. One of them who's going to like visit Portland this
Oh yeah.
coming week, just to see Portland and hang out for the first time, have dinner or whatever. So it has become this very social thing where it's like, I want to quit, or I want to, cut it down and
Yeah.
be more productive in other realms. Like this podcast, which is one of the reasons why I'm starting the podcast back up. But but also like Fortnite is actually very rewarding to me as a social and creative ish sort of outlet. It's kind of, so I'm both the father and the son.
Yes.
Like
someone needs to tell you to go outside.
Yes, well,
spend
yes,
more time outside.
Well, I've my young daughter has, like occasionally she'll be like gaming, let's do gaming, and it's like, I'm like having my coffee, I'm like, sure, let's do gaming, and then but so when I'm like saying goodbye to my friends, if I happen to be playing with buddies, now she says like GG's, because we say GG's when we sign off, like see you later, and then good games, and then I just recently taught her like, let's go touch some grass, so she's like, touch grass, I'm like, yes, we need to touch grass. So that's a whole thing.
Daddy's been having too many GGs.
Yes, too much GGs in this lobby.
No, I feel bad now. I didn't make friends with that 8-year-old. I should have.
Yeah, you could have been buddies. You could have sold another book.
Last quick story on that is I did play once with one of my friend's kids when he was about 14, and me and him did a duo, whatever, and he literally told me to sit in the garbage can while he did all the killing. He's like, you wait here in the dumpster. Don't worry, Mr. Dawson. I'll take care of it all. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
There's a few of us, olds that play the Fortnite.
It's a good game.
It is. It's a good game. I'm depressed that they're embracing AI as a thing.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
It's definitely like, it's like my one addiction, really in the world, and they're coming for it with adding like, Italian brain rot to the or whatever the fuck, so anyway, everybody should run out and buy from your local bookseller The Hidden Dominion of Geordie James. Who published that, by the way?
The publisher is Union Square Kids.
Okay.
And so when I first signed with them, they were actually owned by Barnes and Noble. But over the last few years, they got bought by Hachette, which is fine. But I think the book is not, this is happening a lot, but like I'm not seeing it in many Barnes and Nobles. And that's a bit of a shame because I feel like it probably would have been had they kept it and not sold it.
Right.
But the editor I'm working with is Chris Duffy, who you probably know.
Oh yeah,
Chris Duffy,
who
right?
used to run or edit Nickelodeon magazine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I have to say, like from a working with an editor point of view, like I'd known him through comics for a long time, but working together, it's been like incredible. He's really good, and like I really enjoyed the whole process, the creative process. Working with him, I'm working on something new now with him as well. So
that's great. Yeah, I didn't know where he was at, but he's one of those legendary, behind the scenes guys, and
he's great.
Sort of alt comics and children's comics. So that's cool. That's good to know. Well, what do you say we talk about our comic of the day? That's not how we talk about it, but yeah. So we have here Excalibur issue 3. It came out in August 1988, and so just to give you like a sort of a snapshot of like what else was out there. This is the same month at least as like Black Kiss number 5, Dark Horse Presents number 20. Let's see.
Is Black Kiss that Howard Chaykin?
Yeah, the Howard Chaykin porno comic.
I did not read that month.
I may have actually, because I was a precocious child. Flaming Carrot number 19 in Marvel World it was more like Daredevil 261. That's like the John Romita Jr. and the
And
Cinti
Nesenti.
era.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Someplace Strange graphic novel by John Bolton and Ann Nesenti. That's like a Spider-Man book. There's Grendel 22, Legion of Superheroes Annual #4, Martial Law #5. So this was like a really cool, like just looking at it, I'm like, I was definitely Suicide Squad #19. This was a cool time, for comics, and this is Excalibur is I will get into the indicia and like the credits box here, but this is the era where there was the X-Men comic. As far as X-Men goes, we think of X-Men now as this sprawling sort of, like just like there's so many titles potentially that you might, if you're like, oh, go into the store, I'm like, what is up with the X-Men? You'd have to like really parse what the frick is going on with the X-Men, but you'd have to be like, tell me, oh, comics store guru, what's the core title to read right now, because there's going to be any number of like, this is the corporate X-Men comic, this is the X-Men comic where they like go kill people all the time, this is just the book about Storm's romances or whatever. Back in the day there was Uncanny X-Men, and that was it. And then at some point, there was New Mutants.
Yeah.
And because that was like the kids that were coming up,
to become X-Men.
Yeah, to become X-Men eventually, maybe. Yeah. And of course, because of the way comics exists in stasis, that didn't really happen for like a long time.
Yeah.
But and then eventually we got Excalibur. I think that was like the third spin-off title, if I'm not mistaken.
Was that an X Factor as well?
Yeah.
You point.
Yeah. You're right. I think X Factor was out by now. So but most of them were written by Chris Claremont, as this comic was written by Chris Claremont. And eventually, like, he handed off New Mutants to other people, like Louise Simonson took it over, who was also like a longtime editor of these books, and Ann Nesenti also was an editor of these books. So Excalibur is sort of like a very early spinoff when it's still pretty unique that there was a spinoff, and they kind of had to have a reason to do it, or at least like pretend that there was some sort of idea behind it, instead of just like, we need more Wolverine comics. But so I did go ahead and look up a contemporary article about, sort of a preview of Excalibur from earlier in the year. Like, I think it's a February issue of Amazing Heroes, which I think came out twice a month at the time, which is insane to think about, that there was a time when Amazing Heroes, the magazine about, superhero comics, basically, for the most part, came out twice a month. But yeah, there's an article called High Caliber from Amazing Heroes issue 134, and I'm just going to read a little bit, like some selected passages from it. It's so early in the days when there would be spinoffs that they have to sort of justify it in the article. Like, Excalibur is in part very much a spinoff from the X-Men. Not only are 3 members of the X-Men in it, Shadowcat, Nightcrawler, and the second Phoenix, Rachel Summers, but the new series also has many of the same creative personnel as the X-Men itself. And Chris Claremont says, it's the same old happy crowd of X-Men people. Glynis Oliver colors it, Tom Orzechowski letters it, I write it, and Ann Nesenti edits it. Although she didn't edit this issue, so I'm not sure, when that changeover happened.
Oh, I didn't know that she was involved in maybe right in the beginning.
Yeah, I think she was probably the editor of the special, maybe.
Okay.
But for this, at least for this issue, and maybe for the series proper, Terry Cavanaugh was the editor. But so it goes on to say, in fact, one of the reasons that Excalibur was created was to give a home to various members of the X-Men cast who had been written out of the latter series, making way for the new members Dazzler, Havoc, Longshot, and Psylocke. Right, so that's the whole era.
Even that just makes me chuckle that they had to like worry about like, do we have room for
Yeah,
Havoc?
yeah,
We have to write Nightcrawler out.
yeah. We there's not enough room for these guys to which, I mean, it's true. You only have so much space per issue,
Sure.
but it's a simpler time. And then it also says, like, readers will recall that Rachel Summers left the X-Men some time ago, accompanying the other dimensional menace Spiral to an unidentified location. As for what happened to Rachel between her exit from the X-Men and her return in this Excalibur special edition, Claremont says that will all be revealed in the Longshot limited series that will appear later in 1988, which never happened, right?
Longshot?
I mean, there was a Longshot series, but
not one that explained
was
it.
like,
Okay,
that was like 84, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
The R. Adams one, right?
Yeah. So I'm assuming that they were going to have another series that just never came together. But yeah.
Well,
so,
you say, not to cut in too much, but
no,
you say readers will recall, and it's like, no,
I don't
this reader
know.
had no recollection.
I'm like, oh, I just took it like, oh, she's here, she's in the comic, it doesn't matter.
Yes, I had no idea what was going on half the time.
Yeah, for sure. And then just a little bit more of this. The question inevitably arose: what would happen to these missing X-Men? Would they simply return to the X-Men and displace their replacements into comic book limbo? In 1986, Claremont began mulling over the problem while beginning to help plan 1987's crossover storyline, The Fall of the Mutants. I began figuring out what I could do with the X-Men who weren't going to be in Fall of the Mutants, like Kitty and Nightcrawler, he says, because I knew if I didn't do anything with them, other people would leap forward like rabid wolves to heist them. Alan Davis and I had been talking over the idea of doing something together, a graphic novel, a series, or some such. And then basically the concept of Excalibur evolved, and we decided a team which would be Shadowcat, Nightcrawler, Captain Britain, his girlfriend Megan, Phoenix, and someone new whom we didn't invent, which I don't think.
It's supposed to be Widget?
Oh, I guess maybe Widget, but that doesn't really count as a person. Like, Widget is like a literal widget.
Yeah.
a plot device.
Well, I think his head did eventually show up in the little left-hand corner box.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I guess you're right. But yeah, so as we were working on creating Excalibur, there was a sort of a joint agreement between Ann Nocenti, Alan, and myself to make Excalibur as diametrically different from the X-Men as possible. We'd go back to what the X-Men were initially, which is to say a book with a sense of humor, which unfortunately I tend to lack. The X-Men of late has been very serious, downbeat, grim, and angst-ridden sort of book, and we really haven't had a chance to engage in some real yucks. although I think with Mark Silvestri as penciler, we'll be getting back to that with a small vengeance. So we decided to do Excalibur as the cosmic comedy caper book. We do everything in there we weren't supposed to do in the X-Men. Absurdity, silliness, and a much more British sort of approach to things.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where the bulk of what's interesting about what he was sort of saying about his mentality there.
Well,
I think it's pretty funny.
Just like a quick aside, you said with Mark Silvestri on Uncanny X-Men, we'll get to the humor. I thought Mark Silvestri was one of the best Uncanny X-Men artists, but the first image leaps to my mind is Wolverine on the cross. I'm like, oh, so funny.
Yes. Yeah. That, I mean, notoriously, I mean, there are funny things. Like, I can think about, Colossus painting in the street and getting harassed by teens and stuff like that. But generally that's a very dark and gritty era of the book.
But I will agree. So to look at Excalibur a tiny bit, I don't know if you want to look at it right this second, but
yeah.
I mean, Alan Davis has always been an artist that I just personally have really liked,
mm-hmm.
And he is excellent at that sort of like humorous cartooning, like his body language, his facial expressions. Like he really is a master of it. So I feel that he, in terms of like this is sort of a funny book, and that probably is a little part of why I was drawn to it at the time when I was. But yeah, his artwork really, I feel, kind of like made it. In fact, I have like a bunch of my early Excaliburs here, and if you recall this one, this is Excalibur number 10, where Alan Davis, I think it was the first one he didn't draw, because he managed to do
okay,
like
yeah.
the first however many issues, and like I hate it. Like I
Who
hated it then.
who drew that one, just to put
Well, I
them
don't want to say
on?
now. I literally just said I hated it.
Yeah. Is it?
Drawn by Marshall Rogers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Inked
Which,
by Terry Austin. But it just didn't work. Like it,
right.
the thing that for me worked about Excalibur, like required Alan Davis to be drawing it.
I would say that's fair. Like the book, he co-creates the book with Claremont, and then he does a good number of issues, and then he goes away for a while.
Yeah.
And then the book is kind of rudderless really until he comes back, and I think he's maybe either writing or co-writing at that point, and that's when they do like the cross time caper and all that kind of stuff, which maybe goes on for too long, but it doesn't really get good again until he comes back.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's the only Excalibur.
I would say that's probably fair.
What I was thinking, because you were asking me like to pick a comic to talk about, and I don't want to like linger too much on just nostalgia. But I happened to be, I'm the same age as you, so I was 13 when this came out. So of course that was the golden age of Marvel Comics.
Yeah, the only good era is when we were
only good era,
preteens or whatever.
But you must have heard that I don't know if it was a tweet or if someone pointed out a thing about like getting into comics, like how people's first comic doesn't need to be like Watchmen or Mouse. It's supposed to be like some random issue, like in the middle of some storyline. That like you're reading it and you're like bewildered by half of it, but like you just sort of like it makes you curious. I kind of feel like Excalibur the series is like that's that concept in a series,
right?
Like these random characters, like you couldn't be a 13-year-old in 1988 and living in America and be familiar with the Captain Britain series that was written by Alan Moore,
right?
Alan.
It wasn't even released over here. Excalibur, as we mentioned, they're taking some of the mainline characters from X-Men, but then they're grafting it to the Captain Britain thing. He and Megan are like main characters in the book, but then a bunch of the sort of background characters that populate the series are from earlier comics by Alan Moore and Alan Davis that were not released in America at all. I mean, maybe you would be able to get an issue of Captain Britain magazine like at some comic shop that was really trying to get everything, and they were having it brought over, but it wasn't like something that was obvious. So having the TechNet or whatever come in, you're like, oh, who is this group? Like they're so weird, and wow, Chris Claremont's so inventive, and it's like, oh, well, actually, Alan Davis co-created them with Alan Moore, so
actually, if you open up the book, I think right on the first page, the woman in the they're not leopard, it's not a leopard skin outfit, but that
basically little arrows, but
this character, her name is Vixen, like she's from the Captain Britain series.
I assumed that, but I was also like, there's nothing, no context.
Well, I only know that because before we got on this call, I was maybe I should find out who is she, because as a reader, it's just like it feels like okay, it's established it's someone, but yeah, and actually she's fairly important, like in like comic book lore in a roundabout kind of way, because I think she was the one who Captain Britain's younger sister is Psylocke, or twin sister. And it was
before
Vixen
she was a ninja. She was just a model.
She was an English lady
model. Yeah,
and she had her eyes gouged out, and it was by this Vixen character. But I did not know this.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Because that was like a whole ongoing thing in the X-Men stories about like her eyes. Wasn't somebody could see through her eyes, like Mojo or something?
Yeah, yeah. Well, because she had cybernetic eyes
Yeah.
that were put in. I think maybe even in one of those annuals that Alan Davis drew. I can't remember exactly, but she had cybernetic eyes that were sort of a window to
Yeah.
Mojo's sort of uh, media center or whatever, that he was looking
Which is
for.
kind of like, so I kind of actually appreciate that this issue and no other issue, like they're all where like this doesn't really like explain any of it. There's
Mm-hmm.
no like little box popping up being like, as you saw in like, I'm trying to come up with a Topper number 12,
Yeah.
this British comic. They're just like, they're not going to know. We're just going to go with it. And again,
Yeah.
like, I as I could only be that kind of reader once in my life where
Right.
I like picking this stuff up and I'm just like, what is this world? And I just want to sort of like, I don't like, I was just a brief little bit of backstory. I had immigrated to this country in 1987, but I had not read like English Marvel UK comics whatsoever. So I didn't know anything about it. And I just started to get into Marvel around this time. This is one of the first comics I picked up. And it definitely gave me that feeling of like just wanting to know more about like this universe. And it's a certain type of cartooning. It's not really a kind of cartooning I'm interested in that much in anymore, or like,
Mm-hmm.
these massive worlds and, where you got to get all these issues and understand all these characters and this, massive amounts of lore. But a certain kind of mindset, it's really appealing. Um, you know, especially back in the day when it was on here, it cost $1.50.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, do you remember that these were like printed on nicer paper? Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
these
this
are on the
this is
Baxter
sort of like
paper.
the fancy Marvel comics. Yeah,
Yeah,
just a little bit.
because Uncanny X-Men was 75 cents, so you could you could gather up a lot of those things. Um, but that's just makes me think about something that I never really appreciated about like Marvel and DC comics until more recently. I was thinking about it, how it's kind of like these big collaborative experiments,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really think things like this exist elsewhere, where it's just like thousands of people making these stories,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like all just collaboratively, like Chris Claremont very much was the writer on a lot of X-Men books, so there is a good amount of coherent like cohesion,
Mm-hmm.
but like different artists all the time. Sometimes I get mad about the other artist coming on and ruining the book, but
Yeah,
like it's just
like
like
that damn Marshall Rogers.
oh, fucking Marshall Rogers. But like like that doesn't like does that exist like in other like art forms, like where it's just like a million people like all just like making it up kind of as they go along, like kind
I
of.
mean, I think at this point it's like like creepypasta or something like that. Like stuff like the back rooms or whatever. Um, is sort of born out of online communities of people sort
Okay.
of writing little like their own little like nodes of lore and things that contribute to like a greater project.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be hard to, or maybe some sort of role-playing game communities where people are writing you know their own, like there's I think there's some role-playing game systems that sort of encourage people to write their own uh you know
Fan.
supplements or whatever,
Okay.
but
Well, it makes me happy to hear you say that, because as the possessor of a 13-year-old boy in this house, he most certainly, well, you just said the creepypasta. I don't know what that
mhm,
is, but he very much like is interested in lore, the lore of like the video games and the
mhm.
YouTube things he watches and stuff like that. So I guess it's like this stuff sticks around. It just comes in different forms, like where you could be that age,
Yeah.
and like be very much determined to just sort of understand it all and like sort of.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always been kind of like, oh, it'd be cool to be. I mean, I think if I was gonna travel back, send my consciousness back through time to like exist in another era, it's like, oh, it'd probably actually be the coolest to be like in the early '80s Marvel bullpen. You
Okay.
know, like I mean, as far as like if I just wanted to not, I'm there's probably other cooler things to do, but as far as like being a complete fucking nerd, and and wanting to sort of be like, oh, like I could have found like a real creative place there. I think it would have been like a really it seems like a really interesting time.
Yeah.
Creatively, like, and it was, I think, the last of the Wild West days, there, where it's like they came out of the chaotic 70s and they were sort of starting to, it's like, they have like people implementing, more order, bringing more order to the mix, but it was still sort of like, you got Larry Hama over there, doing his thing. You've got Archie Goodwin doing his thing, like these editors were bringing new things to the table. And, you have these kind of documents where it's like, I think it would be fun to do Marvel style, quote unquote, where you're like really collaborating with an artist or a writer and being like, well, I think we should do this, and like, let's just do it. And then, you have to let that thing sit next to, this is sitting next to like a Tom DeFalco. Well, actually, I guess at this point, it's actually probably sitting next to Walt Simonson Thor or something. Like, and I just think that's a really interesting thing. Like you're saying, like there's all these sort of different things that are sort of tonally different. They hit differently, like depending, like you could kind of find different vibes, but they're all sort of set in the same place, more or less.
Yeah, if you turn the page, I think it's the next page. So the character there, the Vixen that we all know, everyone knows Vixen.
Of course, yes.
The character that she encounters is Juggernaut, who is actually a massively famous character. Like, everyone knows Juggernaut from the X-Men. This would be the first time I've ever encountered that character. Is this version of Juggernaut? So I never read an X-Men comic that he was in before. And I will say that I love Alan Davis. And so I hate to get a criticism in, like, right out, like, what I barely talked about, because, like, he is, like, one of my all-time guys. He's so consistent. His body language, as I said, is so good in his cartooning. But he's just a terrible Juggernaut. He's just, like, this dumpy guy. Like, he just doesn't look cool. He's got, like, parted hair. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I think Juggernaut, isn't, like, the most stylish guy, probably, but...
I know, but, like, he just... Like, there's not a lot of, like, I just don't really love how he did the Juggernaut. Like, in this, it's just his brown costume. He's just stocky. He's just sort of, like, nondescript. But I guess he kind of used that helmet to look like the Juggernaut. So, and then that's a plot point that he doesn't have his helmet on.
Right, because so his helmet protects him from psychic interference, which, he needs in the X-Men because... either Jean Grey or Charles Xavier might zap him. And of course, we have Rachel Summers, Jean Grey's time lost child or whatever here, who also has the Phoenix Force, and she can do the same, which, spoilers, she does. Just to get into the plot, the basic plot of the issue, it starts off, the plot of this issue, there's still 3 issues in, still setting the scene for Excalibur and what does it mean to be part of this team, and they're still sort of all like kind of like getting acclimated with each other and kind of bumping up against each other, because like we said, it's like we're merging X-Men and Captain Britain stuff, and there's a certain element to where Chris Claremont is spending time putting that on the paper. Like, it's not just like something he has to figure out how to do. It's like these characters also are sort of butting up against each other. And so it's called Moving Day. The bulk of the issue is actually them sort of getting settled into their cool lighthouse zone, I guess, or at least half of the issue, I guess, is about that. But the opening action part of it is the well-known character Vixen, that everybody has tattoos of, breaking the Juggernaut out of this special prison. And I guess actually she's maybe trying to do something else.
I think so. I think she's like getting captured, and then she realizes the Juggernaut's there, so she frees him.
She's trying to free some chappie, and this is one of Chris Claremont and John Byrne are both obsessed with England, and so and Chris Claremont, of course, is he's one of those guys who sort of peppers in like all these kind of little dialogue bits and stuff, whether or not they make sense or not. But so she's like, this is the cell, freeing the chappie inside should net us a cool million, and so they, whatever, there's like a trap, and in order to get out of the trap, she frees the Juggernaut, and then they end up fighting. They end up freeing all these other prisoners and fighting the army, and then fighting Excalibur. And before they wrap that up, and then they end up going and doing a bunch of moving into the lighthouse, and oddly, it's like dealing with Captain Britain's alcoholism for a good chunk of it.
Sort of comes out of left field, but
yeah. But so that's the basic plot of it. There's sowing the seeds of different things. Like there's an ongoing thread here about Nightcrawler is a bit of a nice guy, and Captain Britain's a bit of a Chad, and he treats Megan, who is a bit of a literal fairy princess, manic pixie dream girl or whatever, who's very codependent with her drunkard boyfriend Captain Britain, and there's a long running thing where like, oh, Megan and Nightcrawler have a bit of a chemistry, and so
which is very appealing as a reader, because like similar to the X-Men comics, and I was thinking about it, like there was those Keith Giffen Justice League comics at the time, very soap opera-y, like ongoing stories, but like very much like about like the interpersonal dynamics of these like characters on a team. So like funny, but also like about like how these like superheroes are like how the way they relate to each other is almost more entertaining than like the battles and stuff that they get into.
Yes.
If you go to page 10, I think that was that's an excellent page showing like Alan Davis, just like his body language. Like this fight is like it's nice to look at. It's good. Yeah. Actually,
the choreography is great. Yeah.
I wonder, like, I know we're sort of skipping around a bit. If you go to the page towards the end where they're moving in. So like you're right, the second half of the thing, they're all just like kind of moving into this lighthouse where they live. And if you get to like page 18, I think. I was looking at these. I was thinking about this a lot. So Chris Claremont comics, a lot of words, very very verbose.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like narration. If I was to read, could you imagine? Like, look at panel 6. If you were an artist on a book and you were told, okay, in this panel, you're going to draw Captain Britain and Megan up above a lighthouse, moving a giant sack of like boxes. Also, Rachel Summers will be visible. Also moving a bunch of boxes, and we will see Shadowcat and Nightcrawler standing next to the base of the lighthouse, plus 4 different word balloons.
Right.
You'd be like, how? How do you do that in one panel? I'm like, that's the kind of thing that's like the amazing thing about this style of cartoon, which I realize is just so far away from the kind of cartooning that I practice. I'm like, I wouldn't be able to do this. I don't know if I could make a page with this much words on it. Like,
it's a lot. I mean, Chris Claremont. That's sort of one of the stereotypes of a Chris Claremont comic is that there's almost always too many words on the page, or too many. There's a lot of words on the page, but he's one of those guys who he has such an interesting dialogue style, because he will break up these little like monologues into sort of like 3 to 5 connected balloons where you can kind of feel the flow of like the pauses and what they're saying, and then there's like there's a spoken part, and there's like thought balloons connected to it, because it's all just like this sort of digressive dialogue that just is just constantly just splaying all over the page.
Well, it's another one I was looking at on page 30. It's another the second panel. It's not even like it's not an excessive amount of writing, and I also will say that, like, in my opinion, it just depends on what kind of comics you're looking to read. Because I couldn't get enough of this type of stuff at that age. It's a struggle for me now to read comics with this many words. If you look at like the second panel, there's like it looks like there's that I guess it's Shadowcat is the one who says the first thing, where she says, "I know what I saw," and then it's Rachel Summers saying another you, and then there's two more Shadowcat bubbles, and I feel like that you read those before you actually even look to see who the characters are,
Right.
because you sort of see them standing, and these characters kind of have to stand there, and they have to be placed in a way that like you're gonna read all this text around them, and like it's going to, like your eye is gonna hit those characters after you've read a bunch of the text. Like, so they need to be like positioned in a way that like it's going to look natural when you look at it as a whole, but also like you're going to flow into it. Like your eye will flow into like Shadowcat talking, and then
Yeah.
you'll notice like the other characters, like the way their bodies are positioned. You sort of see that after. So there's actually a lot of like comics happening within each panel, which is, I mean, that's comics.
Yeah.
But like that's like the work of it, and like that's like the stuff that like is again, it's like it's beyond me, but like I just sort of like I kind of admire it, even though I would find this a struggle to like read this sort of stuff regularly these days.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's interesting too to think that I'm assuming that this was probably done in some sort of hybrid of the Marvel style at this point. So like he's probably doing like a pretty detailed like here's what happens on each page even,
Oh, you think so?
but like like he's probably giving like a pretty detailed plot breakdown is I guess what I mean. But then he's probably scripting off of the art. You know what I mean? He like getting the pages and then scripting to what Alan Davis has drawn.
Oh, maybe he is. If you look at the next panel, because when you say that, like it fills me with like alarm feelings of like because I really hate. I don't know if you ever had that experience, but like trying to like put word balloons on art that already exists, especially like want to put a lot of words on there, like squeezing it all in is like such a nightmare. But yeah, if you look at panel 3, like that word balloon next to Captain Britain's head as he's coming through the door, like it's right up against his head. Like the text is barely fitting into it. Like it's like probably Captain Britain should be over a little bit. Like
Right.
could have like nudge him the other way a bit to give him a bit of space.
And the fact that it works as well as it does is just testament to Alan Davis's like he's a pro.
Yeah.
Even at this point, early-ish in his career, I mean, he's done a lot of comics already by this point, but like, he's knows he knows who he's writing, he's working with. Like Chris Claremont does a lot of balloons,
Yeah.
and I think if you look at those Captain Britain comics, they're the lettering is often a little bit rougher, but like this is Tom Orzechowski is he's a real pro letterer.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a testament to Alan Davis's like placements of his flow, his mastery of flow, I guess I should say, the page flow and the panel, the panel composition.
If he was working on his iPad doing it in Procreate, you easily could have just bumped Captain Britain over.
Just move him over a little bit.
Make it a little smaller.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that. Quick question. Do you think this stuff is hand lettered? I guess it is, right?
Oh yeah.
Like
this
someone actually
at this point. So I mean I don't know, but it might be, I guess, at this point I don't know what the process was exactly, but they're either lettering on the actual art.
Okay.
So it's getting like FedExed around or whatever, mailed around.
Yeah.
Or maybe possibly being done as paste up, lettering or like an overlay or something. But I'm assuming that it was actually done on the board. And so sometimes it's like on top of pencils and then it's sent back and then inked, sent to then like Paul Neary to ink.
Okay.
Is kind of what I'm assuming. And you know what they say about assuming, but that's one way things were done for sure.
Do you think it goes on the pencils and then potentially inked afterwards?
Yeah, I do think so. I think that that's probably what's happening.
I mean, it is like actually like incredible that this is as readable as it is now, as we've just established.
Yeah.
Like, how did they do this?
Yeah.
Paul Neary, I had strong feelings about as well, because I think he was like a fantastic inker. But there was a period where I was a collector of Captain America comics,
I was
the
gonna
Mark
say, yeah.
Gruenwald run, and didn't those Paul Neary ones.
I mean, he's a good storyteller. I just
Oh,
don't
no, it's
think
great.
his drawings are like that exciting. You
No, I
know,
like to.
like the character designs and stuff are all kind of, but those are good comics. That those are like the Flag Smasher or whatever comics that he was drawing. Like that was the era when Captain America was driving around in a van, and
He was a
you know
cartoonist.
yeah, he was a cartoonist driving
he
around
was
in a van,
he was drawing his pages for Marvel. My
mailing
favorite
them
Cap.
off to the
Yes.
letterer.
Do you know of the artist Carrion Dwyer?
Oh yeah, he's a
Carrion
Portlander.
Dyer. He's
Yeah,
a Portlander.
yeah,
Yeah, he's my he'd probably be my favorite Captain America artist. I thought he had he had that good consistency and the good the feeling of like weight to the
yeah.
bodies. That I
The
really
real
just love.
chunky
Yeah,
figures moving through space. Like his Captain America is, yeah, I would say like him and Mike Zeck are both favorites of mine.
I don't know if Kieran Dyer listens to your podcast, but I think isn't he John Byrne's stepson or something?
Yeah, yes, that yeah. I don't think it was like I think it's like one of those don't meet your heroes kind of guys.
Okay.
One kind of situations, but that's not my story to tell. We used to have an irregular poker game that we would often have at Kieran's place, and
Oh, really?
he would often win. Not why we stopped playing so much, but more just like it's hard. It's like getting a role playing game or whatever together.
You have to
But
understand that sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your story, but
no,
like
no, that's cool.
to me, I have been in comics for quite a while, but I have very little contact with the people who worked on any of these types of mainstream Marvel
Mm-hmm.
DC comics. So to me, they don't really exist. They're
Right.
just legends in my brain. Alan Davis is somewhere up in the clouds.
Yeah.
Like he's not a real person. And I'm like, the fact that you know Carrie
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and he's a great guy. And in fact, I definitely, I mean, like, we're not like, he's a little bit older than me, but like, it's like one of those things where it's like, he got started pretty early,
Oh, he did. Okay.
I don't know. I think he was in his 20s when he was drawing Captain America or something, so I don't know. He's like 10 or so years older than me, but he's like a real chill guy. But I've definitely like spent some time being like, man, the Bloodstone saga, man. Let's just fucking talk about it. And he's
Well, when
like,
you see
yeah,
him, let him
okay,
know.
well, I've drawn like a million other things since
Yeah.
then, but thanks,
Let him know I was very angry when Ron Lim came on after him.
I mean, why wouldn't you be? Like, I mean, no shade to Ron Lim, because I also sort of liked him on certain things, but like he was kind of fun on Silver Surfer. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when you got like Ron Lim instead of like George Perez or Kieran Dwyer, you're like,
let's get very mad about this stuff.
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on. It's like you go from Alan Davis to Chris Wozenak or whatever his name is that takes over this book later. I mean, apologies to him if he's happens to be listening or watching, but that was one of those things where as a kid I was just like, what the fuck, how dare you. So just to like kind of dial in on the comic a little bit here, I thought it was interesting that there's a bunch of seeds of different this is sort of Chris Claremont's whole thing. He's like, there's a, there's a B, there's a C, there's a D, there's a E, there's an F. There's all these different like beats in the story, and often they won't get wrapped up until years later, if at all.
Yeah.
He was always spinning plates, and so there's this thing where I think we do sort of see some of this later, if I remember correctly, but they have this moment where Kitty is installing her mega computer or whatever the hell, she's like the tech guru, so of course she has some sort of computer that doesn't exist, that's basically like a souped up Apple IIe or whatever. and she goes down into the basement to fix the power, and then there's like another alternate dimension, alternate reality Kitty, who's like an alien but they both have a Lockheed. And
Yeah.
then and then there's also this other thread where you see Captain Britain has gone off because he's gotten into some sort of fight with everybody.
Yeah.
That's what it was. This is the whole thing with his alcoholism.
Yeah.
He's a real cad, and they really don't shy away from that. But at the same time, you're kind of like, they don't really like deal with it either. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh well, he's drunk, and he wakes up and they're like, he's got a headache because he drank a whole bottle of whiskey or whatever, and then like Rachel throws out his whiskey into the ocean because it catches on fire and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and he gets so mad, at everybody, and he flies off like he's just a dick, and then Megan like has like a meltdown where she like, she's a fairy, and so she like, her glamour, as she gets upset at her codependent bullshit,
Yeah.
she becomes mousy and weird looking, like a real like little fairy goblin lady, and then he goes off and is basically like hanging out with his ex-girlfriend,
Yeah.
like trying to get ego tokens from her, and it's just so interesting. Like, he's like, oh, babe, whatever her name is, like, what is her name?
She hasn't had, something happens with her later on. I can't remember.
Yeah, like her whole thing too is like, she looks like Saturnine or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Who
It's
is
all the
also in this
interdimensional
comic.
stuff. Yeah.
They show her.
Yeah.
It's a bit of if I don't really remember, but I think it's a bit of a Madeline Pryor, Jean Grey kind of thing happening here, but like, or maybe it's just like a samey design kind of thing. But he goes off and hangs out with his like posh, British ex-girlfriend, and like is like, oh, everything's so hard. It's so hard to be me. I'm Captain Britain, and like nobody gets me. And she's like, oh well, I thought you were happy in your new life, especially with your lady friend. And this is like the soap opera stuff that is so cool, but it's like so, I mean, in today's world, it's like the kids would be like, the kids would be like, oh, this is problematic, because it is. It's like he's a little creep. He's going over there and he's like talking like about his sweet, lovely, his lovely creature of a
Yes,
girlfriend.
but he doesn't take her seriously.
Yeah, he doesn't take her seriously because she's like a little naive or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's a bimbo, or whatever, I guess, to get down to it, like in some parlance. But he's like strokes her chin and like, I gotta go. I've just got this responsibility. I'll be in touch. And then, she's still holding it. She's like, I'm waiting to cuck your girlfriend or whatever. Like, I'll be waiting for you. Very interesting sort of sexual social dynamics in this comic.
But again, I mean, like, for like, as a 13-year-old, it's just like the soap opera is just so enthralling. I don't recall Captain Britain's alcoholism really ever being like much of an issue, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but like I don't recall that, like, it coming up that often. Like, I don't think of the character that way. It may have been something they were briefly like kind of like trying to like add into his, because they definitely kept all the stuff with like, oh, he doesn't treat Megan right, and Nightcrawler's the good guy and stuff like that. But I don't recall like specifically like his drinking problem being like a big part of it.
I don't remember how much of it goes on past this point. It may have been,
maybe just Rachel had to throw it in the ocean.
She threw it in the ocean, and it's like, that's his big moment of like, oh, I guess that's a wake up call. I've got to do it.
My comment on Captain Britain, because I loved him, and in part because as I mentioned, I had just emigrated from England, so I was like, very attached to this character. Like, okay, I'm here in America, I'm getting into Marvel Comics, but this is going to be my guy. I loved his uniform.
Oh yeah,
which
you want those boots.
Well, that's the thing. I found his costume really hard to draw. Like, I find him a very hard character to draw to make him look the way he should look, because I kind of feel like he should only look the way Alan Davis draws him. But I think of almost all characters in Marvel Comics, he'd probably be like, you'd look the most ridiculous if you were dressed up in his costume. If you were wearing like white spandex with the blue thigh highs,
Yeah,
no underpants.
Yeah, where let me see. Yeah, like this
Right there, right on the cover.
Yeah, that. I mean, it is an all-time great costume.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, like what is even happening with his boots? Like, it's like, is this? I always assumed that these were like little flaps that kind of come off, but like here it's just drawn like it's tights with a,
Well, yeah, like what they're doing.
Design.
No, I thought they were like, I thought they would sort of stick up.
Yeah, like and I think maybe they do in different drawings, but
yeah, if you go to page
6, yeah, they
do.
They
clearly
do.
sticking up. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a great, it's the Union Jack wrapped around him. His helmet sort of doesn't make sense in real life, but it's very cool. He's got like the chin guard and everything.
Yeah, he needs to put on a pair of shorts.
Yeah, I mean, you just imagine if you're cosplaying as that, and like you're eating a hot dog at the concession stand at the Comic-Con, and you get like some mustard on your cock area, you're just,
white,
your
white spandex.
Yeah.
I liked it at the time, but it also doesn't really make that much sense narratively that he would be dressed in the Union Jack, because like that's like a modern invention of like the combining of like the different countries into like a political entity. But like the story of Captain Britain, he's supposed to be like the heart of Britain, like Merlin gave him his powers and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, I was gonna say, like, because when he starts is that he chooses they give him a choice. It's like Lone Wolf and Cub. It's like you either choose the ball or the sword, and he chooses the ball. He chooses this medallion, which gives him his powers or whatever. And I guess he would have been like a much more like aggro Captain Britain if he had chosen the sword, which later, like in the last 10 or 15 years, I think they had Betsy be Captain Britain and she chose the sword.
Okay.
Something, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's this whole thing where he's kind of I think originally he's a bit of a like he's a bit of a Steve Rogers kind of, like skinny, I'm a like a intellectual, whatever. And then he becomes this big, I mean, like Alan Davis draws him so cool. Like he's very much a like cartoon character, like triangle wedge sort of physical form cutting through the world. And his hair is amazing too.
Yeah.
But yeah, he like, if you remember, like one of my early comics that I got, with him in it was, I think it was probably a Marvel Tales that reprinted a Marvel team up between him and Spider-Man, where
I know that. Yeah.
Like the Arcade traps him in there's like a 2-parter, and that was so cool. But he's in that old costume, which is also sort of bad, in its own, in its own way, where it's like the full face mask, but his hair is sticking out of the top, and he's got like the lion on it, and his medallion is flowing around his neck, like at any given point, jangling around. And he had a staff, I think, at that point, So I don't remember I don't remember when this happened, but I think this is like an Alan Moore and Alan Davis era invention.
Yeah, I think when they sort of reinvented him in the Marvel UK stuff, they came up with this costume, which again I liked. I also don't like it now, because to me, like, now that Union Jack stuff just makes me think of Brexit, which is like British MAGA.
Right. Well, it's like there's a character called Saint George, or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, that's like the little bit that I know of, like that whole thing. It's like that cross is like actually the racist cross,
Oh, is there
like,
one?
Yeah, it's like, oh, if you see this cross, it's like somebody who's like, get out of my country, you dirty foreigners or whatever. So too bad. I mean, it probably was always like that, and somebody appropriated it for a Shadowline comic or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like this is a cool comic. It's very funny. There's like not a lot that actually happens in it in a large sense. It's people moving into a house, people having a little fight. Like, I don't think they ever come back to like, oh, Juggernaut. I don't even think they ever deal with Vixen again in the
I don't
comic.
think so either.
It's like, so like this
their
is
last
one of those
appearance.
things where like Chris Claremont's like, oh, we're gonna get this guy out, and you think like, oh, this is like a thing. Maybe this will show back up. Maybe she'll be continuing to try to like find this guy. No, I don't think she ever shows up in this comic again. I could be wrong, but it's been a while since I read most.
I don't
of the
think
other
so.
issues.
I mean, I have a lot of them here.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, there's way more important things to worry about in this comic. Like, will Nightcrawler and Megan have sex? Because there's a whole thing where, at some point, like, her and Captain Britain's relationship continues to go a little rocky, and he continues to take her for granted, which is incredible because she's a bit of a babe, as they say.
Yeah. Well, Alan Davis draws in that kind of.
He draws every woman pretty much like, just like
they're very Zaftig.
Zaftig, yes. Like, well,
if you look at this,
I love this part where she like gets all crazy, muscly, and everything too. But yeah, there's a point where, because she's a shapeshifter, she sort of like takes on, like, they're like doing some sort of danger room kind of situation, and she ends up like becoming a Nightcrawler type.
Oh, character. I remember this. Yes.
Yeah, it's like very, very. It definitely imprinted on me. I was like, ooh, like as a 13-year-old or whatever.
Sexy
I was
Nightcrawler.
Like, ooh, I like this. Yeah.
What were
you gonna say?
3 fingers.
Yeah.
I was just gonna talk about one production thing. Is that this is a later issue, a couple issues later, where I think they had to shoehorn the characters into like a big crossover. But I was just looking at it, like, you see the little Captain Britain up there. It's on probably the cover, the one you have here. They had to change his costume as they got into the teens. I think because like those little parts of the UK flag were like a pain in the ass to color.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So once they started the cross time caper, there was a thing where like, oh, and Captain Britain has got a new costume that has less fiddly little details
stuff.
With the color.
Less business.
Yeah, a little less business. It's a bit more simple.
Yeah, there's an ad there's a house ad, which I love. I love the house ads. I mean, the other ads are kind of cool. It's like you got like the Ninja Turtles and whatever, and the subscription page, which is always kind of fun to be like, oh, I could have gotten 14 comics for $7.75.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Jesus Christ, that's insane. Because like one comic will be $7.75 now. Not really, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I do love this. I love this image of Inferno. They're promoting Inferno, which is one of the early crossovers at Marvel. They had Secret Wars 2, and then like, I don't know, Fall of the Mutants maybe, or I can't remember what the actual.
Inferno might have been one of the first ones where it like hit everything.
Yeah,
because I think Fall of Mutants was like X books. That Inferno ad, is that drawn by Mark Silvestri?
That is a Mark Silvestri. Speaking of the Devils, drawn by Mark Silvestri and inked by Dan
That's so
Green.
Funny.
Oh no, this one's actually inked by Terry Austin. But yeah,
look at the comedy.
Yeah, it's so funny. But it's funny to be like, it is funny because you're like, well, it's horny as hell as this whole era of X-Men had become.
That Inferno thing with the Havoc gets some sort of like.
Oh yeah, he gets his little like baby girl costume. Like he becomes it sort of sets up this really fun dynamic with him and Madeline Pryor that they're still sort of mining years later.
Are they really?
Yeah, well, because they've in the Krakoa era they did like they did another Inferno, which whatever. So they brought back Madeline Pryor, and she's like the Goblin Queen and all this kind of stuff still. But yeah, so Madeline Pryor, who was sort of the Jean Grey doppelganger, but they kind of did her dirty, but it's still a fun era for her. Very horny costumes.
Yeah.
On and there's like chains on Magic in her Dark Child sort of form. Jean Grey is just in a sheet for some reason. And then just a reminder that Sim here, he is his whole thing was that, he wasn't supposed to be like a load bearing part of the X-Men comics, I don't think, but he's a Cerebus the Aardvark parody or
Is
riff
he?
or yeah. So his whole thing, because his name is Sim, like Dave
Oh,
Sim, and he's purple. He has a vest and these little gauntlets, and like he's basically dressed like Cerebus, and he has this weird little like hair curl thing just like Cerebus. So he's like a Cerebus the Aardvark guy, that becomes like Magic's whole foil for a long time. Like he sort of like originally he's like her sort of like minion kind of, and then it turns out he's like a scheming guy, and he's one of the guys behind this Inferno thing is where he kind of really goes bad.
I
But
guess that
yeah,
comes back to what we were talking about, like this massive collaboration. Because I did not
mm-hmm.
know that, and like that's a ridiculous origin for that
It's
character. It's like this
completely
joke
ridiculous.
about Cerebus, but yeah, I knew all about Sim, and was really into the Inferno thing. I mean,
Right.
it kind of in these mainstream comics. And I know you probably want to wrap up soon, but in these mainstream comics, there was always so much talk about like who created a character and stuff like that, and I know that's important, like who created them, but like it seems like so much of the writing is shared, like who created Sim? Like Sim, I kind of think of as this Inferno character,
Right.
like 'cause it's sort of, but I don't know if that was like where he
Uh,
originally came from. I have no
he
clue.
he was a background character in Magic's whole like limbo,
Yeah.
which I mean I'm assuming it was probably a Claremont and somebody, Bob McLeod or somebody. I don't know, like I don't know where his origin was, um, but he had existed for a few years previous to this, and so originally he's just like kind of like a oh yeah, boss, like you're the princess, you're the queen, because she was like the queen of limbo because she stole it from Belasco or blah blah blah, whatever. Who cares really? But he was just like a helper guy, and then it's sort of like as he went along, it's like, oh, maybe this guy's actually not so, he's a demon. Maybe he's not such a nice guy, as he says in this
But I
image.
guess what happens is like whoever's writing these stories, they just sort of start to find something they like in a
Mm-hmm.
character, and it becomes something different.
Yeah,
Um, like it's not very plotted out and planned. It's
yeah,
the
and
Wild
I
West.
mean, just to what's that?
It's
Wild
like the
West,
Wild
yeah,
West.
yeah, and just to like kind of close the loop on Sim, like it does make sense because at the time, I mean, like Cerebus is filled with so many parodies of various things. Like I don't know if you've read much Cerebus, but like one of Dave Sim's whole things is like he's got a Groucho Marx, he's got a Mick Jagger, he's got like the Wolveroach, he's got
Yeah.
like the Moon Roach. He has like a Man Thing character. He's like got a Steve Gerber character. He's got all these things that are parodies. He probably parodied Claremont specifically. So this was them kind of playing back and forth in the era where I'm assuming it was Claremont was like, oh yeah, you're going to make fun of my characters. Well, I'm going to make fun of your character, and it's just like the Wild West, as you say. It's just a whole.
That's interesting.
Anyway, that was Excalibur number 3. Um, cool image of Nightcrawler just doing his Nightcrawlery thing on the back.
His crotch.
Yeah, he's working on his abs. Written by Chris Claremont, drawn by Alan Davis, inked by Paul Neary, lettered by Lois Buhalis, colored by Glynis Oliver, who is also Lynn Weens' wife or ex-wife. Edited by Terry Cavanaugh, editor in chief Tom DeFalco, and Claremont and Davis get a creators shout out in the credits, which is pretty cool. They didn't always do that kind of stuff. So
My apologies to Paul Neary for what I said about his Captain America.
Paul
I was just
Neary,
15 years old.
Yeah, he's got a long list of credits. I'm sure he's fine with whatever we think about his penciling. But yeah. Anyway, Mike, it's been great catching up with you. Do you have any like thing you want to plug besides your book and or socials or any of that kind of jazz?
Yeah, my book, The Hidden Dominion of Geordie James, is out right now, and actually I do a lot of comics on Instagram, and that's the best way to follow me is just Mike Dawson with 3 W's, and I post there constantly, and that's just a very good way to keep up with me.
Right on. And of course, you have like a Patreon where you offer mini comic collections of your online comics and stuff like
Yes.
that too.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on in this issue, and thanks for bringing this cool old weird comic.
It was really good talking to you. It's great to have the band back together.
Yeah, man. See ya.
Talk to you soon. All right, goodbye.